growth wall of our school. Every year with our middle school students, we take out a marker of a different color and we mark to see how much they've grown. My question for you is, if we did a growth wall for your classroom, how would you compare this year versus last? In this keynote, we will talk about how it's time to grow. For kids to grow and develop properly, they need food, water, rest, and attention from adults. Well, this is the same thing for your classroom. You as a teacher need food for thought, you need time to think, you need the water of encouragement, and you also need mentorship from others or time and attention from others who know about the topics that you need to learn about. Well, I call this intentional R&D, or intentional research and development. And this is an important part of what I do to take it up a notch or take time to grow every week. I call it embedded PD also because I learn more taking tiny 15-minute snippets than I do going even to professional development sometimes. Intentional R&D is taking the next thing on your list and taking just about 15 minutes to explore something new and to learn about it and to see if it's appropriate for your classroom, because of course we test things before we take them to our classes. If you tried to watch a plant or even a child grow, you wouldn't be able to do it on a daily basis. But from year to year, over time, you can look back and you can see how you've grown. So as we share in this keynote, also jot down the notes of what you've done that have given you growth in your classroom and share those with others as part of this process.
Hello everyone, I'm Lindsay. I'm an international educator. I've worked around the world in Australia, Zambia, Kuwait, Bangladesh, and now I'm in Qatar as Head of Information Technology and E-Learning at Qatar Academy. You know, I think I've kicked it up a notch pretty much all of my teaching career. I've always tried to introduce new concepts and ideas into my classrooms, particularly since the development of the internet, and now we have Web 2.0. I've tried to use tools that connect, communicate and collaborate to improve learning and to improve those relationships that are so important in my classroom and in my extended classroom. I invite you to kick it up a notch with Vicki and I during this keynote. Thanks for joining us.
In this presentation we're going to work to help you grow in your profession. We're going to talk about how to grow from month to month and year to year in a tough profession that often lives in the tyranny of the urgent. This presentation is divided into 5 sections. The first section, Food for Thought, is the primary section. After we give you some background about our own classroom transformation, we will present the issues that we feel should influence the classroom structure and encourage you to pick several areas of improvement this year. Don't worry, researchers, college-level professors and administrators, we have thoughts for you here as well. Then in the second, smaller section, we will offer tips for carving out time to think. The third section, Encouragement, will include some of our thoughts for beginners and professionals who often get discouraged on their path to improvement. The fourth section will talk about mentorship and the grassroots movement of educators and how you can join in. In the fifth section, we encourage you to set your goals for improvement, and other educators around the world share what they are doing this year to kick it up a notch and grow as well.
Look at this delicious cupcake. Most of our schools allow cupcakes, but what would happen if you brought a cupcake to school that looked like this? Or if you eat too many of those leftover cupcakes and this happens, well, do we ban cupcakes? Is that what we do because someone brought an unkind cupcake? Would we punish everyone for having access to that delicious treat? No. What we would do is deal with the behavior. Then it's sort of hard to understand why so many people are banning blogs and wikis and podcasts because they don't like how they're being used. Every tool ever created is morally neutral. In the Middle Ages, they burned books and called them evil because they didn't like the content. It's not the book or the paper or the cupcake that's evil. It's how they're used. Let's take the scissor, for example. When students are young, we blunt the edges so that they can use the scissors. We teach them to walk with the scissors and to hold the pointed end down. As they get older, they can use sharper scissors, but we have rules to keep the students safe. The same needs to go with every other tool that we use. There are classroom uses for cell phones and iPods, blogs, wikis, even things like Second Life that look like video games to a lot of teachers. The secret is in finding the most effective use and sharing our best practice. So let's be careful not to punish the tool, but to deal with the behavior that we need to improve upon to use these tools in schools.
We started to be aware of each other, I think, online through the K-12 online conference in 2006. And I was reading Vicki's blog, and I noticed that she was doing a classroom project with her students, or looking at The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman, and I was doing that with my students. And so I contacted Vicki online and said, well, how about we join our classrooms together and do something from opposite sides of the flat world. And Vicki responded and said, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's try and do something. So then it evolved.
Mm-hmm. And we said
there.
We wanted to experience the flat world and also learn about the trends in the book. So we took the trends in Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat, and we created a project where they would literally have a partner that they had never met. And as we were in the midst of the project, Thomas Friedman found out about the project. And he gave us autographed copies of his books for those who had the awards at the end.
One of the best things about that was we actually collaborated on the 2 and a bit pages we have in his book. We collaborated with Tom on that in a Google Doc. So we wrote a bit, he'd edit it and send it back to us, and we'd write a bit more and he'd edit it. We're talking about a couple of different things here. We're talking about the whole concept and practice of a global collaborative project, which I've been doing for over 10 years now in different formats, using ePals and Global SchoolNet, CyberFair and iEarn projects, International Education and Resource Network. So I've had a lot of experience doing that and creating partnerships around the world as such. But the difference is, of course, now that we're using Web 2.0 tools, and this has now created this platform, this infrastructure to make the interaction so much easier and so much more immediate, and to provide tools for communication that just make it more real, because it's not so much send an email and then maybe a week later the other classroom will send another email. It's mostly asynchronous, which isn't in real time, but it's still being able to communicate pretty much on a daily basis, teacher to teacher, teacher to student, student to student, using the new tools. And I think that's been the catalyst for these projects. Well, I think I don't think we can really take credit for the phrase flat classroom, can we? I think one of our really good colleagues, David Warlick, who is a well-known educational technology consultant, I think was one of the first people to coin the phrase flat classroom. And it's related to Thomas Friedman's book, of course, The World is Flat, but it's also related to the fact that the dynamics in the classroom are flat. There's not the teacher standing on the stage with the knowledge, transferring the knowledge down to the students. Everyone is a learner, everyone is a teacher, basically. So the dynamics have been flattened. There isn't this hierarchy where the students are sort of down here, the teacher there. So that's where the essential concept comes from. So then, of course, we've taken it and flattened our classroom walls to bring other classrooms in as well, still with that flat model.
And so now this year we're actually looking at merging our classrooms throughout the entire year. So it's removing the walls that have separated us, because we've been separated by time and space. We're obviously in different geographic locations. But we also, I know some schools that are putting in amazing video conferencing centers so that they can collaborate with someone in Africa. Well, they're not going to be able to because they're asleep in Africa while we're awake in North America. North America is isolated by these huge oceans, and so we're not going to video conference necessarily with people all the way around the world. So you have to set up these asynchronous spaces, and I think what you're seeing with both of us is a progression. We started with our classrooms so that we could learn how it worked and safe practices and get our comfort level, and then we moved out a little bit, worked together. A walled garden is to create a space. For example, I have a private classroom ning, which is a place to create, they call it social networking, I call it an educational network, where my students are in that space. It's me, my students, and any administrators on our staff who would like to join this space. They can blog, they can share photos, they can share videos, they can communicate, comment on each other's, it looks a lot like Facebook. But when I say walled, that no one else can enter that space except for us. There is literally a virtual wall around that classroom. And I have people who ask to join all the time, and my answer will be no. That is our space, because a classroom should be a safe place to learn. And when you begin teaching students about digital citizenship and how to operate safely on the internet, as well as learn your topic, they need to be in a place that is safe for them to make mistakes and for you to teach and have those teachable moments so that eventually they'll be ready. It's sort of like training wheels for your blog. You can also create private wikis. Those would be classified as walled gardens. Now, I will say this. Some people say we have our walled garden and that is enough. And I believe that even if you have a culturally diverse school, it's still not as culturally diverse as it could be, because you don't have people from all over the world necessarily in that classroom. And after about a week or two of the first flat classroom project, some of my students came to me and they said, Miss Vicki, the news media is wrong. We're not getting an accurate picture of people from Muslim cultures. Because we're working with some great people. We have a lot in common. Two of them actually found out they liked the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they just had discussions about that. They thought that was great. But the fact that I can't take my students around the world, but their worldview changed by being exposed to students from around the world, and they were able to come up with their own viewpoints. And it's that powerful environment that I think have many teachers looking at flattening their classrooms just because of the change of their worldview. And Julie and I like to say that we're building bridges that the students of tomorrow will walk across, because we're linking them directly, and they can make up their own mind and come past these cultural stereotypes that really are pervasive in our society, and we don't even know they're there until we start communicating.
We have a number of stories, I suppose, over the projects we've done, but I think moving to the Middle East, I was in Bangladesh, which is a Muslim culture as well, and now moving to the Middle East this year again is significant. I threw my grade 10 class into this project as soon as I walked into the school, and the students had never actually used blogs or wikis. I know Vicki says we should always train them a bit first, but because they had me, I sort of thought I'll just take them in. But their reaction, of course, to doing a project, and the boys, a couple of boys said, well, what are they going to think of us? They might think we're all terrorists here. And I said, well, this is your chance to show that, we're pretty much ordinary people here, Muslim, Christian, whatever. We're just sitting in the Middle East. I know, most of my class are Qatari, they're local students. But, let's show them, let's show the world that this is a good thing. And I think from that, the students sort of thought, oh, okay, let's just get on with it then.
The first step of flattening your classroom is to connect yourself. You have to ask yourself, am I connected? And I think the best tool for professional development that's been invented in a long time is the RSS reader. These are startup pages that you can customize, like iGoogle, NetVibes, PageFlakes. And you can subscribe to blogs and Google calendars and all sorts of things on this page. You can create a personal learning network. This is vital to becoming an innovator and keeping up with best practices in your field. If you don't have an RSS reader, that is definitely the first thing you should do. Because also RSS readers are the place you'll go to grade all of these wonderful tools as well. So the question is, are you connected to education? Are you connected to your subject area? Are you connected to other educators who are doing what you're doing?
As we embrace online learning modes, it's important to realise what it means to be a digital citizen. Citizenship, of course, is having a passport to our own country with the rights and responsibilities that go with that. We live in a digital world and we teach 21st century citizens who are already digitally fluent, largely, and embracing emerging technologies. Digital citizenship, therefore, is important to be looking at the norms of behaviour with regard to technology use. Our project, the DigiTeam project, looks at joining young people together, taking positive action and showing them how to behave appropriately and responsibility using technology and giving them that opportunity. This is going beyond netiquette. It's looking at how we are aware with language around the world, how we're culturally sensitive, how we respond to each other, what we do with copyright and fair use, how to be an online learner and a member of an online learning community. Our DigiTeam pedagogy has 4 main pillars. Communication, where we join students and teachers together in an educational network, using a Ning in this case. Collaboration, where we foster collaborative authorship using a wiki. Content, where we foster content creation and discussion based on that content, once again using a wiki. And taking action within our own schools, supporting students to be leaders and educating other students throughout the school. To be a DigiTeacher, therefore, there are 3 imperative steps. First one is to research the technology and connect yourself. Make sure you know what the power of the technology is and what the shortcomings are before you put your students out there. Monitor and be engaged. If you have students in an educational network or on a wiki, you need to be there as well. You need to monitor. You need to be engaged. You need to be interacting with those students and with other educators who are out there. And avoid the fear factor. Make a difference. These tools do make a difference to learning. You can use them safely and you can foster good digital citizenship within your classroom.
Last year, as part of the DigiTeam project, my students worked with some students from Julie Lindsay's class in Qatar and Barbara Stefanik's in Austria to study the 9 aspects of digital citizenship. As they did this, they created a collaborative report on a wiki. And when they were done, they did one of the most important things I think we can do with online projects. They created an offline action project. Here at our school, my students trained elementary and middle school students on aspects of digital citizenship and safety in ways I could have only imagined. Let's listen to what they say about the process.
Hey, we're 10th grade students and we're doing a video about digital literacy. Sorry for our uniforms, but we had a softball game today and there was no other time to do the video. First, we're going to tell you about an online project that we did with Qatar and Austria, and it's about digital literacy. Digital literacy is the ability to communicate using technology such as emails, as well as being able to distinguish between real and fake websites. And we think students around the world should learn about digital literacy because it's something that you use in your everyday life. And we thought it was cool to be able to work with students from other countries. Schools ban websites like MySpace, Facebook, and YouTube from their students, but refuse to teach them how to do so properly. In their own time, these students are teaching themselves by selling and posting pictures on the internet without knowledge of how to do so. During our DigiTeam project, we learned that most teens were unaware of the dangers on the internet. Usually on MySpace and Facebook, teens have inappropriate pictures without even realizing it. Kayla, what did you learn about the DigiTeam project we did last year?
It was really interesting. I learned so much stuff. So many teens get on the internet every day, and you don't realize how all the bad stuff that's on there. People post inappropriate pictures, and they don't even realize it.
I know, and all the kids in middle school and MySpace is lying about their age. It's just ridiculous.
And they don't even notice that their profile isn't really set private.
I know. It's so easy to snag a photo nowadays. I mean, you can just even if it's set on private, people can still go and hack into it.
I just think little kids need to be taught properly by their school or by their teacher, their parents, something.
The bad thing is that schools think that it's the parents' job, but the parents think that it's the school's job, so nothing's being taught.
And kids just end up teaching themselves.
This happens all the time. People copy and steal photos on the internet.
The exact same thing happens every day online. Someone gets their identity stolen because they do not know how to shop safely online. I know kids as young as 9 years old that are shopping online. If they're not educated about shopping online, it can cost their family a lot of money. There are also adults that fall for scams and other online traps. To prevent these things from happening, people of all ages should be taught about online safety.
Students live in a networked environment, and we should be using them at schools. However, some schools say they're implementing social networks. I don't like to call it a social network because I'm not running a Facebook or a MySpace. I don't have a social network in my classroom. I have an educational network where my students are professional students, and we learn the principles of effective behavior and how they should interact. We use something called a Ning in my classroom, and it's a very Facebook, MySpace type environment that they're familiar with. And some of the first things they do is forget to capitalize things and not to punctuate. And they have to just learn how to behave in these types of spaces to get them ready for college. I cannot take my students around the world in a jet, but I can take them around the world on the net. So I want them to be a part of projects. Now let's talk about the 5 steps to flatten your classroom. In the first step, you connect your students with one another in the same classroom. I do this on a Ning and also on a Wiki. Then you branch out and you connect students between classes in projects where they won't see their other partner except maybe in the hallway. Then the third step is to connect across districts or across the school system. If you look at it, there's no reason you can't take all of your 5th graders who are studying the same subject and put them in a common educational network to aid in their learning and to facilitate cross-pollination. So often teachers complain about the makeup of their classes, but this way you can have a group of students where the top students can push each other and also mentor other students. It's a great environment. Then we get to step 4. In step 4, students start connecting around the world, but you still have the teacher really in the leadership role, managing the project, making sure everyone's contributing and that sort of thing. But you want your student, before they graduate, to reach step 5. Step 5 is a student-managed global collaborative project. This means the teachers step aside and they are facilitators, problem solvers. You work a lot individually with students, but ultimately the students themselves are the project managers, assistant project managers, editors, producers, and all of the other areas of leadership, which they decide. Truly, if your students can reach level 5, then they are ready for college project-based learning and the real world, which is just a lot of projects.
The wiki is an excellent tool for collaboration. And we say this often, but what does this actually mean? I'm going to use the Horizon Project 2008 as a case study to demonstrate a collaboration using a wiki format. The group I want to look at is the Grassroots Video team and Grassroots Video Wiki B. And these students were collaborating on it last semester, and it's actually an award-winning wiki page. This is the opening to the page here. The subtopic was government, politics and employment. Students collaborated on the background, what is grassroots video, what does it mean in terms of government and politics, what does it mean in terms of business and employment, etc. Now, of course, the features of the wiki that make it a collaborative environment are the discussion forum and the history. I'm just going to show you the history tab here. Now, as you can see, it goes backwards in chronological order. The feature that is really interesting, of course, is the comment, and we need to encourage more use of this comment. Every time you edit and save a wiki page, you can leave a comment as to what you've done. And you can see there are quite a few gaps there, but it makes it a lot more useful when a comment is left. I'm just going to whiz through to where the wiki started. You'll see that there are 4 students collaborating on this wiki, but there are more than 4 names here. You'll see my name, of course, dropping in every now and then. You'll see other teachers, such as Chris Flosouris. He was the teacher from Japan, the Japanese class. The students, you'll also see the project manager and the assistant project manager for this particular team, Grassroots Video, as a whole team, dropping in and out as well. I'll show you this one. Yumi, from the Japanese class, April the 28th. Compare it with what the last person did, Heidi, on April the 24th. Now Yumi went in, you can see she's had a few edits there, and she's done something, saved it, done something, saved it. She hasn't left us any comments, so we're not quite sure what she's done, but let's have a look. As a consolidated effort over those few edits and changes, she's been working on the background to employment business in terms of grassroots video. So you can see there where she's been adding, the red is where she's been deleting, the green is where she's been adding text, and it's all completely documented. Let's go through to towards the end of the project. There was a problem. Now Danny said he had to revert. A couple of times he had to revert back to May the 8th. So it looks like Yumi perhaps went in and deleted something by accident. So he's had to revert back and save some of the work that the students had done. Let's just have a look in the discussion tab here if there's anything that shows that. You can see that there are a number of people discussing. I started a discussion early on in the project saying a positive start to the wiki. Around the time where Daniel reverted back to May the 8th, he left a discussion on the wiki. Where did all the info go? Yumi saying she didn't delete it. Daniel saying, well, I'm sorry if there's been a misunderstanding, but the history page is telling me that you deleted it. And then Yumi talks to her teacher, and she says, my teacher says he knows what might have happened. So through this collaborative environment, which is fully documented, we can see that there was a problem. The students have worked through it. Teacher has been involved with helping to explain it. You can see also in the discussion here, Jess is the project manager for the whole grassroots video topic, giving some feedback there, some positive reinforcement. We're up to May the 15th, only a couple of weeks to go for the project. There might have been some problems, talking about citations, and then saying farewell on the end. So you can see fully documented, fully a collaborative, inclusive environment, and this is how we get now our award-winning wiki page that has the student videos embedded. It has the content that they've collaboratively created to do with grassroots video, employment, business, government and politics.
Pedagogy has remained unchanged for centuries, arguably. And it's a model that's inappropriate for this generation. It's one way. It's teacher-focused. It's one size fits all, and the student is isolated in the learning process. We can move to a new model that's multi-way, that's student-focused, that's highly customized to the needs of the individual learner, and where learners get to collaborate in the educational process. What we find out is that the young people who have access to this kind of environment learn better. They become more engaged. There's better learning performance. There's even better tests. So congratulations on the great work that you're doing. Keep it up. There's nothing more important today that I can think of than transforming our model of learning for relevance and for effectiveness for the 21st century.
In terms of concentration, the bell would ring was the major problem. They'd keep working through it. They would use their own time. In terms of cognitive processing, they were processing their own data, both text and multimedia. In terms of teamwork, which is very obvious that they were in a global team with people that they never physically met, and they were doing as good a work as if what they could do in the traditional classroom. The individual differences was very significant. I found that academically weaker students could hold their own, and in some cases actually surpassed those who probably had a better reputation in the more traditional measurements. Global awareness in terms of their understanding of culture and the fact that students their own age actually were the same as them around the world, had their own likes and dislikes. Some and the students, some of them they didn't particularly like as group members, but they had to work with them. So what we've done could be applicable in any learning situation, because it's about knowledge construction. Now, I'm not saying it's something they do all the time, but when they have things and they know it and they want to learn more, learning from others, as we find as adults, helps us learn better. And I think in terms of wikis, I'm very enthused by the potential of the technology to bring people together in a constructive way.
If we look at the learning styles, we know that our students have a whole brain, not a half a brain. They want to create and connect and invent and do all of these sorts of things that Dan Pink talks about in his book, A Whole New Mind. Truly, the differentiating factor in our future is our ability to design and create. So if we just have kids memorizing, we're really missing the point and hurting the future of our kids. So having opportunities for students to create videos and to do collaborative work and to invent things is so important. Let's look at one teacher, Eric Marcos, who's using creativity and inventiveness in his math class, of all places, with his Math Train TV project.
Hello, my name is Eric Marcos, and I am a 6th grade math teacher at Lincoln Middle School in Santa Monica, California. Over the past few years, our students have been contributing to our collaborative Math Train project using a Kids Teaching Kids model. Using my tablet PC and screen capturing software Camtasia Studio, our students create math video lessons, also known as screencasts and mathcasts.
Hi, I'm Bob, and I'm going to show you how to do the order of operations.
To draw a rectangular prism.
So the first thing we want to do is to find an LCM, which would be 6. So we multiply
32 centimeters squared plus 96.
So you cross that out and write in 9.
These tutorials are then used in class or used as a form of authentic assessment and are also shared with a global audience on sites such as YouTube, Google Video, TeacherTube, as well as our own mathtrain.tv site. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Vicki, also known as Cool Cat Teacher. And This is Cool Cat Whippin', my alter ego in Second Life, a 3D virtual world. Now, Second Life is not the only place you can do Web 3D. There are places like Google's Lively and OpenSim that are very promising. But some people haven't even grasped Web 2.0, and here we're talking about Web 3D. Well, for those of you who want things to stay the same, other things that are coming along the path are tiny little projectors that can go on the back of our cell phones and iPods. Infrared keyboards that will mean we can have full-size keyboards with tiny handheld devices. And things like Microsoft Surface, which will turn our tabletops and our walls and all sorts of things into smartboard-like environments where our students can interact. So how do we stay up with all of this changing technology when we're not even where we need to be in Web 2.0? Well, this comes back to connecting yourself. Professional development should become embedded in what we do. We should all take time for intentional R&D as part of our week. We should have planning time, not just to plan, but also to investigate and create and invent ourselves as teachers. And this is a struggle, but we must take time to grow because remember, you're either improving or you're decreasing. We have a saying here in the South that says that when you're green, you're growing, and when you're ripe, you're rot. It's very important to take the time to grow.
Hi, I'm Mary Friend Shepherd, and I'm the program coordinator of the PhD Educational Technology program at Walden University. And one of the things that we like to do at NEC is to have our doctoral students come for a residency, and then when they're attending all of their sessions, after each session they have to do a GCast to me, a podcast, of what they learned in that session and how they could turn it into a research study. So I'm asking them to always look for research issues in whatever it is that they see in the very practical world of technology. And the idea here is that we want to go out and effect change and to really make a difference in the field in the kind of research studies that we do. And the best place to do that is by really looking for it in the real world, which is what teachers provide us at NEC.
Here at Qatar Academy and on Education City, we have a robust wireless network and a strong, reliable internet connection. I believe that integration of digital devices into the curriculum goes hand in hand with constructivist pedagogy. I'm often asked, what will we do with laptops in the classroom? The answer is simple, even obvious. Flatten your classroom. Use them to connect, use them to communicate, use them to create. We need to foster online learning modes and acceptable behaviour rather than blocking or discouraging mobile computer use. There is an Arab saying that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. When finding the time to grow and move forward, you need to find small bites of time to learn. Starting with one step and moving forward, stopping to rest, looking back on what you have achieved, all of these strategies propel you along the journey of learning, along the road to success. Find your entrance point, the opening to a new adventure. Along the way, take calculated risks, but challenge yourself, your administration, your colleagues and your students at the same time. All it takes is 10 or 15 minutes a day to make a start. For example, join an educational network, Flat Classrooms Ning, and get to know other educators who have the same interests as you. Why don't you rethink your approach to curriculum? Start to include Web 2.0 tools one at a time until you are confident, then introduce them to your classroom. There's an Australian saying, you can't have one foot either side of the fence if it's made from barbed wire. So don't you get caught on the barbed wire. Make decisions to utilise new tools and reach out to others who can help and support you.
Sometimes when you're connecting with others, you think it's going to be easy. Like connecting with my friend Vicki here. Vicki? 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 Sometimes our internet goes down. I've been in countries where the power of the internet has been gone for part of the day or a few days. So when you connect with people in other places, sometimes they don't respond. But don't assume it's because of rudeness or lack of interest. Sometimes it's just a problem with the computers around the world.
Phew, I'm glad that is over. Actually, we put this in the keynote because I've always wanted to do this. Davis to bridge. Beam me up, Scotty.
Actually, as we innovate, we overcome barriers. But as you can see, we also play. Some of these tools are fun, but we also have to play with the tools before we know how to produce. Are you done yet, Vicki?
Oh, I've always wondered how Fred Astaire did this, Julie. Hey, if you can't laugh, you can't live. Teaching is a tough, toxic profession, and sometimes we just have to do things so we can laugh at ourselves and make it through. And hey, if things get too serious, you can always grab a $25 piece of plastic and do this.
Actually, we do have a lot of fun when we innovate, and I think it's a secret for ongoing innovation. Sustainable innovation can't only be hard work. You've got to have a little fun too.
Here we go. I'm super teacher. There is no monopoly on innovation. So many of us have mentors and friends all around the world. Build your circle of the wise and join in. Educators are literally the most helpful people on the planet. These are just a few of my circle of the wise.
To kick it up a notch with my teachers this year, I'm working together not just on one individual project, collaborating globally, but trying to connect classes together for the whole year. Have 2 classes become one, from September all the way through June.
Okay, so how am I kicking it up a notch? Well, when I get back to my classroom, I'm going to start with trying to embed technology into a writing program that I've never ever taught before, and I'm going to be connecting with another classroom and helping them on the technological journey as well. And along with that, I'm going to learn how to podcast along with my students for the very first time ever.
So, kicking it up a notch. This year I think kicking it up a notch is a lot about connections. We're a pretty connected classroom. We've been pretty busy the last couple of years, but I think this year is going to be an extra better year with it because everything is so much easier. It's so much fuller. We're connected on so many levels in so many ways. We have our Thin Walls connection, which gets us just about every day connected with the school in LA, but this year we're also going out bigger and getting a lot more global collaboration. I mean, the tools are coming together in so many easy ways this year that I think this is going to be kind of a breakthrough year, I think, in a lot of classrooms because the tools are there and we've got the knowledge, we've got the ability to use them, and so there's no excuse. So kick it up.
Kicking it up a notch means using one-to-one as a means to engage students in authentic project-based learning.
So the question is, what are we doing to kick it up a notch? Well, for me, attending the Black Classroom Conference in Qatar, face-to-face conference, and having a global collaborative piece in every single one of my classes from 8th grade up, as well as moving into Second Life. We've purchased an island in Second Life, and we'll be moving ahead with an Anne Frank project that my friends and my mentors out there will be helping me with.
Hi, here I am in Doha,
on the Corniche. This is Doha City behind me, and as you can see by the construction, they're really kicking it up a notch. It's one of the most exciting cities to be in at the moment in the world. They're really giving a lot of attention to broadband, connectivity, to wireless access. Standing here, I can communicate with the world. My 3G phone, I can take pictures, I can send them around the world, I can interact, I can collaborate. This is what I want my students to be able to do. This is what I mean by mobile and ubiquitous computing. This is kicking it up a notch. It's like the oxygen we breathe, it's like the water in the sea. Behind me is construction work for the new Qatar Foundation Convention Centre. It's being built on the model of a citral tree. A citral tree is a tree that flourishes in the desert and is traditionally, the shade of the tradition of the citral tree was a retreat for poets and scholars who gathered beneath its branches to discuss and impart knowledge. The vision of Qatar Foundation rests on the Sidra and is one of growth, learning and sharing knowledge. Like Qatar Foundation and its vision, my vision for the flat classroom is to transform educational practice to embed knowledge construction across the curriculum. Research is showing that social and community learning helps us learn better. We can never stay stagnant, so I'm joining the challenge to kick it up a notch this year. Here at Qatar Academy this year, we're kicking it up a notch by doing a few different things. We're moving towards a one-to-one ubiquitous learning environment. We're combining laptops with labs this year and working on pedagogy, what it means to be a one-to-one school. We're supporting and encouraging teachers to embrace social learning and community learning, both as professional educators and as classroom facilitators. We're looking at embedding flat classroom pedagogy into the units of work right across the curriculum. We're an IBO school, so we have PYP, MYP diploma. We're looking at how we can embed global and collaborative projects so that students across all levels have that experience of connectivity. Also exciting news, we're hosting an international conference here called the Flat Classroom Conference. It's at the end of January. And I invite you, the viewer of this video, to come and join us here in Doha. There will be two strands. We have the leadership workshop and the student summit. We're going to have like-minded people come in to look at how Web 2.0 tools can change the way that we're teaching and learning and how we connect with the world. And I'm sure the outcomes of this conference are going to be amazing. So come and join us and kick it up a notch here in Doha.
She said, I need time to grow. And this is all I know. I've been racing through the alleys, racing through the fields in my mind. This is all that I have done today, but it's enough.
Hi, I'm Vicki Davis.
I'm Julie Lindsay.
And we're the Terrible Twins.